Again, we're talking about teaching techniques, new and old. Some are classical teaching techniques, some are a little bit newer. We talked about a few things. We ended with organizers, graphic organizers. The three graphic organizers we talked about are just examples of popular graphic organizers: KWL, Venn diagram, and the Freire model. There are many more graphic organizers, and there are some that you can make yourself. Any kind of flowchart, any kind of organizer that you make yourself that has to do with your particular lesson. Another way of using graphic organizers would be to use the actual content or the actual slides, for example, that you use in your lesson as a graphic organizer. So for example, something like this could be distributed to the students at a later time with blanks, where it doesn't say which one is nonverbal, which one is verbal, and they need to complete them and color them. For example, if they're younger, color them and then name each one. Something like this is also considered a type of a graphic organizer. So it can either be something generally used, something from your own material, or something that you make. Now let's talk about body language. Again, you'll find that this may seem a little bit weird. Today we set questions, and I put it in a session titled Teaching Techniques. And questions are usually used for assessment, but today we learned how we can use it as a teaching technique. Body language is something that is usually used naturally, just something everybody has their own way of speaking or walking, or that's their body language. But today we want to know how I can use body language to teach, as a teaching technique. Now, the importance of body language is that non-verbal communication, body language, communication without speaking, without talking, resembles about 75% of our communication with each other.
I used it last time.
Uh-huh.
I used it last time and they liked it very much. I never forgot it. It was infant mortality.
Would you like to show us here? Or no?
That is easy.
Okay.
And then I said infant mortality.
And now
I remember.
Okay, infant mortality. That's a good way. Okay. Yes, we were just talking a little while ago today about perhaps teaching them the name Macbeth with a McDonald and McDonald sign with a girl called Beth. So these things, they actually stick in their minds and in their long-term memories much more than just lecturing or giving them the information. Non-verbal communication resembles 75% of all communication. Only 25% is verbal. And this is the more conservative research. There is other research that says almost 90% or 93% is non-verbal and only 7% is verbal. So at least 75% of our communication together is verbal. So if I'm telling you something, but it shows on my face that I don't mean it, that I'm lying, we tend not to believe the person in front of us and forget about what he or she is saying, but are impressed by the body language that we are getting, and vice versa. The teacher's body language. We're going to talk about 2 points here that have to do with body language. Number one, teachers communicate so many important messages to students using their body language. We communicate things like our enthusiasm about what we are teaching. We communicate things about our confidence in that we know what we are explaining to them. And we communicate whether or not we understand why what we're teaching is the way it is. Am I at equal level? I don't really understand what I'm doing here. I just have a lesson, I read it in the book, and I'm delivering this information, I'm leaving. If they sense this, then here comes the hard questions. I'm going to ask you to test you and see whether you're confident or not. So if they feel this lack of confidence, if they feel the lack of enthusiasm, they will test you. Teachers should be deliberate and use appropriate body language to enhance learning. So we should be deliberate in two things. Number one, not to use negative body language that gives away our actual feelings or our thoughts or our deficiencies. And second of all, be deliberate to use our body language to actually help them learn. Teachers exhibit different nonverbal messages to different students. And this is so dangerous. We talked about it in the very first session, if you remember. I repeated it here so we don't need the first slides. It's so important, whether you like it or not. We all have our favorites in our classrooms. We all have the students who we really like and really love in our classrooms, and then those who we really think are silly, are exactly. So basically, when we talk with them, we try to be professional and use the same words, and we say the same things, and we be fair, we be consistent. But our body language does not show that. When it's somebody we really like, we go closer to that person. We pat the person on the back. We smile more. The other one, we're bored. He's talking, he's asking the question, I'm looking at the watch. I just can't get it over. I'm standing back. away from him, I'm annoyed. All this shows, and he or she can feel it. So it's really dangerous. This is dangerous because our body language shows our feelings, biases, and expectations of students. Now, a lot of teachers really don't like this word when I say biases. No, we're teachers, we're not biased, we're adults. Well, in a sense, all of us are biased somehow, whether we like it or not. Excuse me?
Before being teachers, we're humans.
Yeah, exactly, we're humans. And sometimes we know that our bias is wrong. But it's something that we have to work on. Okay? Bias to anything, to a person from a certain background, to a certain religion, a certain ethnicity, a certain color. Biases. We have our biases for some reason, one reason or the other. Now it shows in our classrooms, this bias that we have inside us, these feelings that we have, these expectations that we have, it shows. And I need to be deliberate to make sure that it does not show. Of course, the best thing would be to have real equal expectations of everyone, not have any biases, really feel the same towards all of them. That would be great. But until I can work on myself and improve myself that way, I need not show my feelings using my body language. Now, how can we do this? I personally think that there is no way you can do this without using this, the camera. It's impossible. You do not know how you look in your classroom. You do not know how you look when you're speaking. You do not know how you look when you're talking to different students. You do not know how you look when you're angry. You do not know how you look when you're sad. You do not know how you look when you're bored. You do not know how you act. Believe me, you will never know unless you film yourself. Okay? Don't show it to anyone. Use it as a self-reflective method. Take yourself, film it, go home, watch yourself, and improve.
I ask my students to do this or record themselves for reading.
Okay?
So they can hear, because I told them you cannot hear yourself. You cannot understand if your intonation is good or your accent is good. So you should record yourself. So it's the same.
Exactly, it's the same thing. If they're reading, sometimes when they're reading, it's just they're reading words that don't really make sense.
Yeah.
Intonation, it doesn't really show what's being said. Commas, periods, it doesn't show that the sentence doesn't make sense. The whole paragraph they read doesn't make sense. But they can see that. I just read it. I read it. You told me to read this word, I read this word, and then the word next to it, the word next to it, the word next to it. That's a paragraph. I just read them. So yes, if they do film themselves and then watch yourselves, do you understand? Do you like the way you're performing? No, so you need to improve. So, believe me, use a camera, and nobody has to see it, okay? But you will improve on a lot of things once you see how you look when you are teaching. Examples of a teacher's body language. Now, here I just have two examples to make a long story short. Enthusiasm and control. Two very important things that we need to exhibit in our classroom. Number one is enthusiasm. How enthusiastic we are about what we're teaching. And if a student feels that what you are doing is something so important to you, and you're very enthusiastic about it, they tend to cheer you, to want to listen to you and be happy because you're enjoying yourself, even if they don't really care about what you're saying. So it really helps. If they feel that you are interested, they want to know what's so interesting about English, what's so interesting about history.
Something that would had to do with enthusiasm. The school organized a trip to Cairo. And we had, usually when we have this kind of trips, it's fun, but also learning something.
Okay.
So this time we were supposed to go to see the three religions in Egypt. It's Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So most of them, boring, why? And I said, how can you not know? How can you not want to know? The foreigners are paying money for this, and you should be ashamed. So suddenly, after a couple of days, they came to me and said, your students are the most number they go to this trip because they said, no, we need to know
We
this.
need to know why it's something important. Why
Yes,
does
I was
everyone...
like, okay, so
Yes.
yes, I told them, I said, I want to see, but if you don't go, I won't go.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really so contagious. When a couple of years ago when we were in the States, then somebody had, okay, do you want me to bring you something for me? Yes, please, a small pyramid. Oh, you have pyramids. Pyramids. So boring. I've seen it so many times. Then I realized that my daughter, she was 2 years younger than now, obviously, hadn't seen the pyramids before. So when we came, okay, we're going to go on a trip, we're going to show her the pyramids, we're going to take pictures. Because obviously some people really enjoy this, pay a lot of money, as you just said, to come and see this. So it has to be interesting. Let's go and see what's interesting about it. That's how they will feel, exactly. So if I'm so enthusiastic about what I'm teaching, like for example, we were saying a little while ago, why should I learn French? I'm never going to go to France. But if my teacher really loves the French language and shows how fun and nice and musical the French language is.
At the beginning of the year, I teach short stories. American short stories are very good. Very good. So it reflects on the kids.
Yes.
And I can see it in their exams.
Reflects on you.
Because
Yes.
I don't like them.
Yes. You are the
I have to
user.
teach them. But when we start taking plays, it completely changes.
Because you yourself have to do that. So how I feel about what I'm teaching really reflects on my students. But the point is, again, as teachers, we are not only humans, we are also performers. We're also actors in a sense. So I may not like American short stories, but love drama or plays. But I need to show equal enthusiasm when I'm doing something that I don't like. It's really difficult, but this is what makes you special. Trying really hard to show this enthusiasm, trying to look for what is interesting. How? Start by doing the same thing that you're trying to teach your students. Look for people who are so enthusiastic about American short stories. Listen to them, talk to them, watch videos about these people. Maybe you will get this spark of, okay, now I understand what's so nice about it, now I feel enthusiastic myself. So enthusiasm, smiling, number one. If I'm not smiling at all during my lesson, it means I don't like what I'm doing. Wide eyes. If my eyes aren't wide, if they're like this, it either means I have a headache.
But you can't control your eyes.
Excuse
You can't control your eyes.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
It's not throughout the whole, you're not going to be like that's the whole lesson. Okay? But when you want to show enthusiasm about something, if you open your eyes wide. Excuse me?
If you're happy about it, your eyes will be.
Yes, but we're talking about teaching something that you're not happy with, something you don't like, but you want to show them that it is interesting. So you act this way, exactly. This is why we have this. If it's just going to be natural, that you don't need to know this information. We're talking about how to apply this while trying to show them that we are enthusiastic about this. So, smiling, wide eyes, using gestures. If I'm standing like this the whole time while talking, just standing still or sitting down, this shows a sense of boredom. But if I use my hands, I use gestures, I do like this, what was it? Infinite mentality. What I can see, we all remember. So if you use your hands, use gestures, okay, it really helps. Use gestures like why when you ask a question, you need to think. You need to think, okay, something like that. Okay, include some humor in the middle. Drop your glasses.
People usually tend to use more bad language than in the rest of the other numbers.
Yes,
When I came first, I didn't understand
Why are they moving their hands so much?
Yes.
Yes. Excuse me? Yes, they move their hands a lot. Yes,
no,
that's true.
my country, when I went back after a while and I started using it, they were looking at, what happened to you? Why you are talking like this? I said, I don't know, it's so delicious.
Yes, it differs from culture to culture, that's true. But again, even if you're not used to this, when you see somebody waving their hands and using this all the time, it is engaging. It gives a sense of enthusiasm. This person is really happy about what he or she's doing. Why? I don't know. Fast movement. If I'm going very slow or reading the story very slowly, it means I don't like it. But if I'm going fast, I'm using a different intonation in my voice. I'm using the gestures, smiling, wide eyes. I give a sense of enthusiasm. Control. Now, control is something I shouldn't worry about, except when, first, I sense some kind of misbehavior starting to happen, then I need to show a sense of control to my whole classroom. And second of all, to know things that show that I am not in control, and avoid doing this so I don't have any misbehavior happen. Number one, hands on waist. If I have my hands on my waist like this usually shows control, okay? Or it shows frustration sometimes. But if you're in a position where there's nothing happened that makes you angry or frustrated, just in the middle of your lesson, you're explaining, you're smiling and everything, but you're standing like this, it shows I'm the important person. I'm in control. Putting your hands in your pockets.
This is how I explain dictatorship.
Dictatorship, okay? That's how dictator looks. Putting your hands in your pockets. Sometimes putting one hand in and one hand out also shows relaxation and it's kind of control. Maintaining eye contact. If the students feel that you don't want to look them in the eyes, that means you're not in control. It means you're not confident. It means you're lying. It means there's something wrong about it. But being able to look each and every one of them in the eyes without blinking, okay, for not too short or not too long of a time, shows a sense that you are in control, you know exactly what you're doing. If it's too long, that's scary. That's scary. It could mean many things. If it's too short,
It's not important.
that means that
It's not important.
exactly. I'm not giving you your importance. Just look at you and I take my head away. Or it also shows that I have lack of confidence. So I look in the eye and then I'm afraid. No, I can't do it any longer. Okay. So try to maintain eye contact with everyone and make sure that you scan the whole classroom back and forth. So as I walk, I look at each one here, and then I look there, each one in the eye, back and forth, so that nobody thinks that I have missed that person. You know when we talked about the thinking brain and the reactive brain, this reminds me of something. Remember the reactive brain, one of the 3 things the reactive brain could do was to freeze. Now, this is something, the reactive brain is very primitive. It's something that you'll find in a lot of animals. Some animals freeze when they sense danger. When they sense danger, when a predator is coming and it's going to eat it. Instead of running away, it just freezes. It stops like this. Freezes it entirely. It's because they think that if I just freeze, you won't see me. Exactly. Just like young kids. Okay? Very young kids, sometimes they close their eyes so you can't see them. If they put their hands on their eyes, now you can't see me. And then they open their eyes, I'm back. It's a game they play. Because they think that since they can't see, you can't see. If I stand really still, nobody's going to realize I'm here. So sometimes our brains freeze like that, and the student just stops, can't think anymore, doesn't understand anything you're saying. Words are coming in, but they don't make any sense. Now, this student feels that this way I will ignore him. If I do actually ignore him, he will like being frozen like this. But if I look every student in the eye every 10, 15 seconds of my lesson, I just look them each in the eye, I'm reminding them, no, you're still here, I can still see you. And then you ask questions, so you're waking him up every now and then. So eye contact is very important. Chin up. The more I look down, it means one of 2 things. It could mean that you're humble if you look down, but that would be something you wouldn't use in your classroom. It would be if you're using with someone older than you or with someone of importance, for example. But in your classroom, looking down would either mean that you don't want to look them in the eye, or that you are embarrassed, or that you're unsure. So all of these are negative things that we don't want to show. So always have your chin up. While I'm talking, just looking up. Look them in the face, look up, my chin is up. Last thing, hand in pocket, like we said a little while ago, this also shows some kind of importance. Remember to use your desks, if you have desks in your classrooms, as barriers. Because when I stand behind my desk, it's as if this is a barrier between me and my students. Between my students and me. Okay? So it's a barrier between us. When I'm standing here, it means we're not the same. We're not friends. But when I leave the comfort of behind my desk, I approach them, I go, it's more, exactly, I'm friendly now, I'm closer to them. Use this based on what you want to do during your lesson. If you want to be friendly, then go next to them, talk to them, look them in the eye and everything. If you sense they're going to become too friendly, or you're going to lose control, go back to your desk, stand here like this way, there's this barrier, they will also go a little bit back. You can also use body language when having your students enter or leave the classroom if you go before them. For example, if you have your own classroom and they come to you, or if it's after break or the first lesson of the day where you go in first. Okay? Always stand, open the door yourself, okay? And stand here like this, leaving very little space for them to enter, so that each student enters one at a time. They don't all go in together. This way, what happens is you are pacifying them.
Breaking them up.
You're breaking them up. Outside, they're talking together, they're maybe fighting, maybe laughing. Once they enter here, each one has to leave the group and go in by himself or herself. The second thing is this close proximity makes them sense, okay, I'm intimidated, I'm back in my classroom, the teacher. It's not like the teacher's standing over there and the door's just open and I go in and out. And the second thing is that you are showing them that this is your classroom. You're opening the door. You're letting them in. It's your classroom. After they go in, you close the door after them. And when the lesson is over, let's say it's before break time and they're going to leave, you open the door. You don't let them open the door ever. You open the door and tell them, okay, you can leave now. This always shows a sense of dominance, that you dominate this classroom. It's yours. I watched a very interesting video, I think you can find it on YouTube. It's about body language of presidents. Okay? And they showed how presidents, when visiting each other in different countries, would always kind of try to be at the back. They're going through a door. And then each one pushes the other one, no, you go first. The other one says, no, you go first.
Usually the host The host goes first.
Goes last.
Not last.
That's where it is. Each one wants to show that he or she is the host, even though you may be in the other country. But the host is the one who's more powerful. I'm the one inviting you here. So the one wants to show power always tries to go in last. And an example of this was George W. Bush in the United Kingdom. He went to 10 Downing Street with the British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, and it's Tony Blair's house.
Yes.
And Tony Blair was going in, and so Bush pushed him inside, went after him. So it's like saying, I'm in control. I am the boss here. I am president, you're a prime minister. It really shows things. Also something else. I don't know why we're saying this now, but maybe if you do shake hands with your students, it would make a difference. You know there's a saying that says, I have the upper hand?
Yes, sir.
That means I'm the one in control.
Yeah.
I have the upper hand means when we shake hands, who has the hand that's on top? Okay? So you'll also see when you look at these presidents shaking hands together, they try to reach first so they can have the upper hand in the camera.
That's the way. I think the one standing on the left is the more powerful one. Because his hand will be on top.
Yes, but again, you know what happened? The camera was like this, and he stood like this. And I think it was also George W. Bush. Apparently he was smart in some ways.
No, it's a narcissist.
Yes, it is, but it does show the viewers that there's some kind of control here. I think he grabbed his hand somehow, and then he took him all and turned this way so that it's him in control. So you can do it in ways that this body language really shows importance. So it's very important in our classrooms to learn these little things having to do with our body language. Okay, now, after body language, let's talk about a couple more things here. Summary. Summarizing the lesson is a very important lesson closure technique. And remember, we need to close our lesson. You remember the analogy we said before. It's like going to a shop, buying some presents for someone very important. You grab the presents, put them all in the bag. All of a sudden the bell rings, you need to go away, just take this bag, give it to that person. Wouldn't it be better to put it in a box, close it, and wrap it, close it all up, wrap it, give it to him or her as a present? That's what we should do. Our lesson closure should be wrapping up everything, closing it, putting it in the long-term memory, starting the process of moving it from working to the long-term memory, and then keeping the information there. Remember how making use of the end of the lesson is valuable. Remember the primacy recency effect? We said the first thing we learn is the thing we remember the most, then the last thing we learn, and finally the least thing we learn or remember is what is in the middle. So the summary of the lesson, the ending of the lesson, the closure of the lesson is very valuable. Students should be involved in the process. I need to have them involved with me, answer my questions, and help me by repeating, rehearsal, remember like we said a little while ago. Now here you can use questioning and, what were the two types, remember? Primary questioning and clarifying questions. Okay, so we use questions that lead to other questions, forming these connections in our summaries. Exit slips with student responses can be used as a way to exit the lesson. This is a very good way when you have students who are working at the very end of the lesson and they are wasting time. They're just doing anything until the bell rings so they can leave. When you have this type of student, what we do is we give them summary worksheets. A worksheet that has questions, oral questions that they need to write, or questions on the worksheet used as a summary. And they cannot leave the lesson, even if the bell rings, without first giving you this paper. It's like their exit slip. They need to hand it to you so they can leave. If they give you this paper empty, they're not going to be able to leave. You have to sit down and finish it first. So now they know that you're going to know whether they finished or not. Other people will just sit down, do anything, tell them, okay, get a paper and write the 10 most important things we learned today. Some will write, and the other will just look at what's 3 minutes, 5 minutes left. Just scribble down anything, draw anything until the bell rings and then just leave. Now if it's an exit slip, it's something I need to take first before you go. Remember, it's something similar to the behavior cards. Remember behavior cards? Where we just drop the card on the desk. This way he can't just run away when the bell rings. No, he knows he has to give this back to me. So exit slip with student responses can be used as a good strategy to make sure that everybody has been summarizing the lesson or taking part in it. Finally, making connections. And this, if you would like to summarize the most important thing that we discussed throughout our MEC Master Educator course, it is making connections. The more connections we form between what we want to teach, what we already know, and what our lives are, and what everything around us is, the better learning we have, the better teaching we are delivering. Teachers should make use of the closure of the lesson by connecting its summary to the following lesson. So here I'm connecting to what is coming afterwards. But also, teachers should ensure that the information taught will be transferred to long-term memory. How? By making many connections between the new information we've learned today and previous learning, and also to students' lives. So, remember we talked about the working memory, and we said our working memories can usually hold up to how many pieces? 7 pieces of distinct, or 7 distinct pieces of information. Now, if I have period number 1, first lesson of the day, and I give them some information, I give them 7 distinct pieces of information, and then I ask them questions at the end of the lesson and they all know them really well. Perhaps this information that I've just taught them is on their working memory. By the end of the day, when they have 6 more teachers enter their classrooms, this information will be the first thing to get lost. And so tomorrow, when you go in to ask questions, you realize that they don't remember. Okay? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe the following week, and so on. So before I leave my classroom, I need to make sure that the information that they have learned is on its way to the long-term memory. Now, when does it actually get stored in the long-term memory? When we're asleep. Our long-term memory actually works, the transfer from here to here, and it's sorted in the files and everything while we're sleeping. Okay? This is at times called the REM cycles. REM is rapid eye movement. It's when we're asleep, our eyes move back and forth really quickly. Okay? If you watch somebody sleeping, a child perhaps, even animals, cats and dogs, they have the same thing. You'll find at certain times when they're asleep. Exactly. This is what dreaming happens. If you sleep 5 or 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours of sleep, you usually have 3 REM cycles. But if you sleep 8 or 9 hours, you have 5 REM. Okay, if you sleep like a band. If you sleep 8 or 9 hours, you have 5 REM cycles. The more REM cycles you have, the better your memory will store the information from the working to the long-term memory. So what do? Do we have our students sleep? Well, in a sense, having a break from what we're doing is a kind of sleep. That's why we talked about the synapse last time, where we give the brain a little break. We're going to talk about this in the next slide. Okay? So that's one thing. The other thing is that when they sleep at night, they will store this memory. But before I leave my lesson, I need to get the process running, started. Exactly. From moving from your working memory to the file cabinet, to the long-term memory. How? By forming as many connections as possible between what I've taught them today and to what they already know, or to their lives. So that way they have so many connections. If something gets lost, something else will stay. Then they go home, they do homework that has rote rehearsal. Homework that revises the basic information I've taught them today. And so the information is stored. They sleep at night, it's stored in their memories. When should I test them? 24 hours or before or after? After 24 hours. If it's there, then I succeed. Okay? So before we leave, we need to make sure that we have started the process, that it's in their long-term memory and not just on their working memories. Now, we have one session left, and this session is titled Innovation. Okay? Innovation and Education. It's about teaching techniques that are innovative, that are entirely new, things that have not been used before, things that are just being used right now, things that we do not use but may start using very soon. I've chosen 2 to talk about so we have more time next time to discuss and actually interact together, have some group discussion, some work, not just lecture. One of them is something called space learning. Now it's a blank slide today because what I'm doing now is I'm forming a connection between what we've learned before to what we're going to learn next time. So I'm not going to write anything here. It's space. So it's space. So now we remember space learning because it was a blank white slide. So we're going to talk about something called space learning and something called flipping the classroom. Flipping. Okay? The classroom. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about space learning, and then we're going to discuss it in more details next time. But what I want to focus on today is how this is related to what we've learned so far. Now let's take some key points of our course so far. Number 1, we've learned that the information, or the memories, or the learning that we have is stored in our neurons. But we have also learned that the information does not go into the neuron and just stay there. The information becomes learning, or become memories, when the neurons connect together. So a certain learning or a certain memory or certain information is not one neuron or two or three, it's a connection, a web between a group of neurons together forming this particular learning experience. Now, we also learned that one of these neurons by itself does not really make sense, just like one person on an orchestra playing one instrument doesn't really make sense. But when we put them all together, then suddenly we realize that this is music, it all makes sense. Second thing we also learned is that these connections are actually formed physically by growing dendrites between these neurons, so connecting them together. Third thing was that these connections are weak at the beginning and need rehearsal and need repetition and need practice in order for them to become stronger. Once they're strong enough, they stay in the long term. Then we learned last time about breaks that are essential for forming these connections. And we basically said, if you teach a certain topic, some information, and then you rehearse, repeat 100 times, at the end, they may not remember what you have taught that well after a day or two. Why? Because you have actually hurt the connection between these neurons. You're practicing it over and over and over again. Do you know what happens when we look at it from the fMRI? It's like these little dots here, the neurons, okay? And they're dark. And then when you explain, you rehearse, the lights turn on. This all lights up, okay? So like 10, 100, 1,000 neurons all light up together. And then you're quiet, turns off again. Then you rehearse again, it turns on again. So it's exactly like turning the lights on and off, on and off, on and off. If you do this so many times, it's going to burn, exactly. And this is what happens. The connection becomes weak, okay? And it does not last. Now you remember it very well, but after a while it's going to go away completely. So they discovered that we need breaks. Our brains need breaks to strengthen these connections. So I need to make the connection. After I make the connection, leave it a little while. Let it take a break. And then repeat the connection again. Rehearse again. Strengthen it a little bit.
In the same
Then,
lesson?
excuse me?
In the same lesson? Or?
Yes, in the same lesson. And then leave it a while. And then again and again. Okay? Now, something that doesn't have to do with this at all was some other research done in the United States that discovered that our memories are formed the best when we have 10-minute breaks between the information that we have received. And they pinpointed the number 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes?
Do you mean breaks like activity or breaks like...
Breaks from the information that you have been teaching. Now I'm going to explain how this is different. And then a school in the United Kingdom called MEC, they actually took this research and they applied it in their school. I think it's their maybe second year now or something. Okay? And they are getting very good results using this method with their students. Now, next time we're going to talk about it in a lot more detail. I'm going to show you some videos. But to enhance this and to make it really, really practical and believable, I tried it last week. I tried it with 6 different classes. They all really, really, really understood very well. And I tried one long session. I taped it. I'm going to show you the video for it, where I explained the whole session that we had before called How the Brain Learns, the Learning Brain. I added to it 2 or 3 more slides, okay, and I explained it all entirely in 20 minutes almost. And at the end I asked them questions. They could answer the questions perfectly. They remembered the information very, very well using this method. So what is this method? Again, next time we're going to do in more details. I'm just giving you an idea, okay? I'm building your interest and sense in me.
It's 15 minutes lecturing, 10
It's
minutes.
short lecture, okay? 15, I use 10 minutes, okay? And then a 10-minute break. And then another 10 minutes of doing the same teaching again, exactly the same. And then 10 minutes break, and then another 10 minutes of doing the same thing again. So you taught the thing, I'm going to tell you how. You repeated the same thing 3 times. And you included in the middle 2 breaks, okay?
You won't finish the syllabus.
Excuse me? No, I'll tell you what you're doing. The 10 minutes, the thing you're explaining here, is something that you would usually teach in 3 or 4 times more time. Meaning, let's say you have a unit, okay? And this unit has 4 chapters. Your usual lesson plan would be to teach each chapter in 1 lesson. So the unit would take how many? 4 lessons. What we're going to do is, using this method, we're going to teach the 4 chapters in one lesson. Very quickly. 10-minute break, and then repeat the same 4 lessons very quickly. Then 10-minute break, and then repeat the same lesson, excuse me?
Without details.
With the details, okay?
How come
With the
10
details.
minutes?
How will you be able to say everything in 10 minutes?
It goes really fast.
And they understand?
Excuse me?
They won't understand. I will do it very fast.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Now again.
Mr. Karim, you know our student information.
Yes, I do.
With this hour.
I do very well, don't worry. Okay, and actually I tried this with someone.
Grade
so
10,
maybe you can
grade
ask.
10.
Yes,
Grade 10.
ask grade 10. Okay? So give me a week, I'm going to try something hard.
Okay.
Next time I'm going to answer all these questions. Okay, I'm just giving you this interest in it. But basically what it is, the 3 times that you go over the lesson, okay, you're basically repeating the same information.
The same way, the same.
No.
Not the same way.
Not the same way. Okay? You could take away some things and ask some questions. I did the 3rd time. First 2 times it's only me talking. Nobody's allowed to ask any questions. 3rd time I ask some questions, answer some questions. You can play a bit with it, okay? But the point
You
is...
mean I can finish World War II in just 1 lesson?
Yes. Okay, I'll tell you. Remember our session, How the Brain Learns, the learning brain, sorry, for you, which was session 2?
Yes.
Now we took exactly 2 hours, okay? Take away 5-10 minutes break, let's say 1 hour and a half. 1 hour 30 minutes, okay? Now I added to the same presentation 2 or 3 more slides. So it should have been done in about 1 hour 30 minutes. I explained it 10 minutes, and then another 10 minutes, the same thing. The 3rd 10 minutes, I had the same slides with blanks in them, and I asked them to fill in the blanks. And they filled in all the blanks. Then I asked them for about 5 or 6 more minutes, oral questions about every single slide that they remembered very, very well.
But that's the
Okay?
short-term memory.
Excuse me?
That's the short-term memory.
No, that's the point.
Ask them next week.
That's the, yes, I will. No, I'm serious. I did this yesterday. I'm going to ask them on Monday or Wednesday. I have a questionnaire for
Don't
them.
let them study
with
at
all.
home.
No, they don't know about it. Trust me, okay? And even the sheets they have the blanks. They don't have the original. And they don't have the video. And they don't know they're going to be tested. Okay? It's going to be a surprise. But the point is, forget about me. This is what they've been doing in this school.
We want to know
Okay?
this.
No, see the experiment there. I'll show you the videos from the other high school. Forget about mine, okay? This is what happened. You listen to the students talk. They have learned much faster and much better. The point is, how can we relate this to what we know so far? Let's forget it. Next time I'm going to discuss the details. How? First thing is, when I tell you today, you're going to sit down here and listen to me talk for 2 hours.
I'm going to be bored before this.
You're going to be bored before we start. And then during the 2 hours, you're going to focus a little bit, be bored a little bit, think a little bit, sleep a little bit, wake up a little bit. It's that, okay? It's our nature. But if I tell you I'm going to explain 20 pages or 30 pages in 10 minutes, I don't want anybody to say anything. I'm going to explain the whole unit in just 10 minutes. You have, I filmed them using this. Okay, it's not working by the way here. I won't tell you before. I won't tell you before. I filmed them using this. So you can see their faces. Okay? When we start the 10 minutes, they're all looking. Wide eyes, not a breath. Okay? Because they know it's only going to take 10 minutes and they have to take in so much information. And then we take a break 10 minutes, we do something that has nothing to do with what we're learning. Then we go back. Nothing.
So it's not activities, it's not the same thing?
No, that's the whole trick. Okay, and this is well here next time we're gonna all brainstorm together and think about what kinds of activities we can use. So one activity I have them use. Okay, I don't have it. Good for me. I'll show you next time. I had them all take 10 minutes. I give them a paper and a pencil to draw me. Okay, they have 10 minutes to draw me. Okay, and they were all thinking what to write next to the drawing of me, what to draw and all around and everything. Okay, and for 10 minutes they were drawing me, using parts of their brains that have nothing to do with what they're learning now. And this is what we mean by a break. You give a 10-minute break, you're not using the part of the brain that you are using now to store the information. You're giving it a rest.
What we did for homework is not correct.
Excuse me?
What we did as homework was not correct.
No. There's a difference. Homework happens after you finish your lesson with hours.
Our assignment, what we did.
Why wasn't it correct?
Because I used the break for activities related to what I explained.
Yes, it's not correct for when we're talking about this. That's true. Spaced
So
learning is a
this
little
is-
bit different.
this is
It is
another-
correct. It's another method. Okay, it's a more extreme method, but it actually works better. So when the activity has nothing to do with this, okay, they were engaged in something else. Okay, it was fun. It was funny. They wanted more than 10 minutes trying to draw, erasing, trying to make perfect. Especially when they know that the drawing that wins at the end is going to take chocolate, for example. Now it's kind of a challenge, and that happened. Okay, and then the second time you're doing the same thing again for another 10 minutes. What happens here? What happens is the first time they focus really well, but if there's something they don't understand, they don't ask. Why? Because they know it's coming again. They don't. After 10 minutes, I'm going to watch the same movie again. Okay, and the thing I didn't understand the first time, I'm going to get the second time. Second time, still don't understand something that well. The connections are still not built that well. The third time, you're going to listen to it again. So they don't ask questions that you're already going to address. By the third time, you already answered all their questions and they can actually give you answers. Let's take a small improvisation of this, okay? Here, let me show you this.